Alrighty, we're live on TikTok and YouTube. I've notified the Discord that we're live. Gonna wait a few moments and then we'll get right to it. Going to get the recorder out and get this going very shortly. I got my snip. All right, cool. Let's get this going. Hey traders, hopefully you're having a good day. Welcome to another crypto market update. Got a few things on the on-chain analysis that we're going to be going over before we're getting to the main topic of this video, which is Grayscale, a public company that is accumulating a tremendous amount of Bitcoin. We'll get into that in great detail a little bit later in the video, but first, just discussing the little bit of a bump we had. This chart is representing the average transaction fee for Bitcoin, and we can see back in the peak when Bitcoin was hitting 18, 19K, 20K, we see that the transaction fees was pretty unbelievable. It hit a peak of above $50 to transact Bitcoin, which is obviously extremely absurd. And we are seeing a little bump now here. It bumped above $6. So, I'm not going to be the person who's going to come up with it, but there definitely has to be a way to allow transactions to be a little bit cheaper when the network does increase. You're not going to buy a $2 cup of coffee and have a $6 transaction on that, obviously. So Lightning Network is an option. But yeah, definitely something to keep in mind if you are transacting in Bitcoin. It might be better to buy an alt or even a stable coin to transact if you are exchanging value for items on the internet. Next thing we're going to look at is the total hash rate that's currently within the market. It's still dropping. It is looking like it's potentially finding some level of a support, but as of right now, it's definitely still really bearish in the momentum for the hash rate, meaning the difficulty is going to adjust to the downside, meaning it's going to take less energy in order for miners to actually mine Bitcoin because there are miners leaving the network, and we can definitely see that within the hash rate. If there's people leaving, the hash rate will decrease, and if there's more people joining the network to try to mine, the hash rate will increase, and that's the difficulty adjustment that Satoshi has created in a pretty brilliant way. Now we're going to get into the main topic of the video, and it's this article that I found on Grayscale. We'll get into it a lot more, but this is the initial article that kind of intrigued me to learn and dig a little bit deeper about the accumulation that Grayscale is actually taking on. So Grayscale is now buying 1.5 times the amount of Bitcoin being mined. I think that's a little bit misleading. They bought a tremendous amount right after the halving, but let's look at kind of the longer term approach they're taking here. We can see independent researcher Kevin Roque, or Rookie, estimated that Grayscale has ramped up Bitcoin accumulation to a rate of equivalent to 150% of the new Bitcoin created since the halving. Now, who is this person? I just want to know who he was. This is his Twitter. I've never heard of this man, but this is the post that was on the Cointelegraph website. And he put Grayscale Bitcoin Trust bought Grayscale's Bitcoin Trust bought 18,910 Bitcoins since the halving. Only 12,337 Bitcoins have been mined since the halving. Wall Street wants Bitcoin, and they don't care what Goldman Sachs has to say. So I was curious as to how the math stacked up when we're looking not just after the halving, but on a quarter-by-quarter basis, because I know that all their assets that they're purchasing, which is Bitcoin, will have to be reported publicly because they're a publicly traded company. So we will do some math here. Hopefully you stick with me in terms of how much Bitcoin estimated is being produced or rewarded to miners every day and then every quarter, and then we'll look to see the amount that Grayscale is actually purchasing. So first things first, how many Bitcoin are actually being produced per day and per quarter? Because obviously that will have a huge impact on the supply coming into the market, which is obviously bearish compared to if there's a lack of supply, there's going to be a huge move towards the upside because that's just simple supply and demand. So we see that there is 6.25 Bitcoin that is rewarded every around 10 minutes. So the block reward is 6.25 coins and the block is produced every around 10 minutes. So I did my estimation of 10 minutes for 6.25 coins, which equates to around 900 BTC a day, which is around 27,000 Bitcoin a month or 81,000 Bitcoin a quarter. That's kind of the math that adds up from 6.25 coins every 10 minutes. There is 900 Bitcoin that is in new supply given to the miners as a reward, and 81,000 Bitcoin per quarter. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. And then we're going to look at the numbers provided from Grayscale Bitcoin Trust Company. So this is a public company, meaning you can trade it on the over-the-counter or OCT markets. So not a huge market cap. We see almost actually 4 billion. So that's not small, but we can see that because this is a public company, we can actually read the files that they need to keep on record because it's a public company. So how do we find these quarterly and annual files? I personally looked at the quarterly files because they recently came out for Q1, but you can look at the annual files and see more information about the company. So this is the Edgar website. Just Google Edgar SEC company filings, and this is the first thing that will pop up. And then we have fast search. The ticker symbol is GBTC. We can see that right here. So if we search GBTC as a ticker symbol on the fast search, we will then get Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, we can see right here. And then the filings are going to be on the left-hand side. We have the 10Q, which we'll be looking at today. And then we have the 10K, which is an annual report right here. And then the 10Q, which is a quarterly report. So if you click the documents, you will get taken to the document format files, which is the 10Q right here. And this is what we're going to be looking at today, is the quarterly report provided by Grayscale, because we're wanting to know how much they have accumulated since December of 2019 to this current end of Q1, which is March. So let's look at the investments from Grayscale's quarterly report for Q1. In December 31st, 2019, the number of Bitcoin that Grayscale had was 261,192.14 ... And then what we have for March 31st, 2020, the end of first quarter, is 304,631.31 ... So that's a pretty significant difference. The difference is 43,439 new Bitcoin that they've purchased. That's crazy. And we can see the difference in the amount that they've actually hold in assets. So if you're looking at the math, there's 81,000 Bitcoin that is introduced to the market every quarter, but Grayscale is buying 43,439-ish. If we're just going quarter by quarter, obviously they're not going to have the exact same structure of a investment schedule every single quarter, but just in terms of the amount that Grayscale is purchasing, they're purchasing 53% of all the new Bitcoin that are being rewarded to miners. 53%. So they're purchasing more than 50% of all the Bitcoin mined from January 1st, 2020 into March 31st, 2020. 53%. I found that unbelievable. So this is just one company that is purchasing cryptos, right? So there's going to be more. There's going to be more hedge funds, investment firms that are going to be looking to gain exposure in Bitcoin. Look at Paul Tudor Jones. His, not only just his net worth, but his hedge fund is absolutely huge. I don't know the market cap. I don't exactly know what it is off the top of my head, but he is one of the most well-known investors, traders in the financial world, and he's looking at cryptocurrencies and especially Bitcoin. And if you own $1 billion in assets and you're a portfolio manager, are you going to be looking at the number 55th coin on CoinMarketCap? Of course not. You want liquidity. You need to get in and out without disrupting the market too much and being able to actually sell and having a market to sell, let's say $100 million worth of cryptocurrencies. You need to have that liquidity. And these large institutions, I think, will be looking at the larger market cap tokens in order to actually have exposure in the realm of crypto, but then also have liquidity enough to actually invest in, in the 100 million plus billion range if people are actually looking to do that in the later point in time. So yeah, I thought that was a pretty cool find. Let's now go to the charts, gonna get a little bit of water, and then we'll jump right in. All right, so let's get right into the market here. After our descending wedge, let's actually go on this one. We've already talked about the kind of structure that we're looking at for a little while. So let's zoom out a little bit and then get our snip and just talk about what we currently see within the markets. I think the 2-hour chart would make it a little bit cleaner. Yeah, I think I like that. The 2-hour really looks good on here. All right, so let's get our snip. And also, for anyone who have any questions regarding what we're talking about, if you drop them in the comments, I will answer them at the end of the video. So what do we see right now within the price action of Bitcoin on the 2-hour time frame? We do see that we are creating a squeeze with a series of lower highs. So this is a series of lower highs creating a descending trend line. And then we see a series of higher lows. Anchor point, key level of support, and then we see that support hold one more time. So on the larger kind of overall structure of the market, we are consolidating, forming a wedge where we have to make a decision at some point in time. But we're still a pretty good a ways before we hit the apex, which is the end point of the triangle. And we've just broken from a descending wedge, which is a bullish pattern. If it breaks the resistance, it could melt down, but we did move to the upside. We got a strong bullish engulfing candle that drove the price above the key level of resistance. We retested this previous resistance as a new level of support really well, broke the descending zone, retested that for a new level of support, and then absolutely blew through the roof of that current resistance. And now we're sitting at around $9,400-ish for the new level that we are currently somewhat holding. We'll see how that goes. It's around here. So I currently think that we will hit this resistance yet again to continue the triangle sideways until we do get a break either to the upside or downside. And let's look at the larger time frames just to get a good analysis of what we're currently seeing within the markets on the larger time frame. So I'll just take this off. I'll take this off. And I think I'm going to keep it just like that. So if we kind of zoom out here a little bit, we understand that we are in a macro symmetrical triangle pattern. So if we're actually looking at the 2-hour chart in that descending zone and the ascending zone squeezing towards an apex, that's also somewhat showing on the weekly chart, although obviously this is more macro, more valid, and we play it differently depending on the time frame that we are looking at. But in terms of the structure, we see that the apex could be all the way until January 2021. Obviously, I do not think that is going to be the case, but you never know within the market. So what we're looking at right now is, let's just go to the daily. We know that there is a major symmetrical triangle on the weekly chart, which is showing this red zone as a major level of resistance where there's going to be sellers within this range. We also know that there is a lot of demand at this ascending support level. So these are the two zones that we're currently looking at within the larger time frames. And then within the smaller time frames, we have a nice little squeeze happening right here. So the question is the large triangle going to be complete because of the fundamentals, because of the demand for Bitcoin, and we will get a breakout to the upside? That is option number one within this symmetrical triangle. And then option number two would be a break to the downside, where we would then go back into the triangle, deepening in the squeeze, contracting in volatility, and then we would have to wait until another potential setup where we would get something like this. We might get another dip down, and then we might touch this support yet again. We don't exactly know, but that is the overall options that I currently see within the market. And right now, I'm still looking at this just as a firstly, a potential reaccumulation phase if it does move to the upside, and if it is the top where this is the resistance that it is not going to go above, this would be the distribution phase, where then we would have our momentum to the downside come in soon after if it does break that nice ascending support zone right over there. The $8,500 zone, in my opinion, is that final level of support that I want to see hold. If it breaks below the $8,500 level, that's going to be my indication that the confidence from the bulls is diminishing and the confidence from the bears is strengthening. So that's going to be my horizontal key level that I'm going to be looking for in order to speculate that the bulls are either going to gain momentum and break through, or if it does break below the 85, that would definitely be a red flag for me to potentially look for sells. So that's going to be the overall structure of Bitcoin. It's looking pretty good right now. Like I said, I think it could go a little bit higher, but at that point, we'll see what it does. I'm pretty happy with that move right there. I got in after that little retest, which was not bad, and then I'm just basically risk-free trading at this point in the money, and then seeing if it'll go a little bit higher here to the key level of resistance. That would be good, and I think I will take profits off because the squeezing and the symmetrical triangle, in my opinion, kind of could go either way to some degree. I was more bearish than bullish for a while, but with the discussion of Grayscale, with the understanding of the global macro understanding that money is being printed like no tomorrow by all central banks, or most central banks, not just the Fed, but you see Europe just come out with, I think it was like 750 billion euros or something along the lines of that for a package to help with the aid of the crisis. You're seeing Bank of Japan print, you're seeing New Zealand, Australia, Canada, obviously the Federal Reserve. So you're seeing all these major central banks print a ton of money, and has to go somewhere. And I think the debasement of the currency kind of whole system is going to happen within probably a lot of our lifetimes who are watching. So yeah, that's basically the overall analysis that I see on the macro time frame. And then on the smaller time frame, I do see a nice squeeze here that could potentially move to the downside a little bit, and that could be a potential short-term short exposure trade that could provide some opportunities with some solid risk reward parameters. But in terms of the larger time frame, if we're talking all of 2020, I'm very bullish on cryptocurrencies altogether, especially Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the other coins that provide a lot of liquidity, which if you're having $10 million, $100 million, you want liquidity when you're investing. You're not going to look for some tiny market cap coin that you think is going to moon with a low probability chance. Just makes sense to trade things with more liquidity if you have lots of money, basically. So that's going to be the video for today. Not really going to get into these alts. I will talk about it within the Performante Premium people. Probably going to make a video with some alts going pretty deep into the structure of them, because if it does break to the upside, that's definitely pretty bullish all around for the cryptocurrency market. So thank you very much for watching. I will answer all questions at the end of this video, but that will be the completion of this recording. Thank you very much for watching. It was a little bit shorter today, but I want to keep it sometimes shorter, sometimes longer, but less rambling, more straight to the facts. I think that might be better. If you found this educational, informative, entertaining, it'd be great if you would subscribe to our channel and like this video. It does help us out, and we appreciate it greatly. And for people who have been commenting kind words, we appreciate it yet again, and thank you very much. So we really appreciate the view, and until next time, have a good one, and happy trading, folks. Alright, so that was a little bit quicker video, but I thought that the Grayscale news was pretty unbelievable, and when I was actually digging into it, if you don't know, this is a really important website if you are in the realm of equities, because it allows you to really dig deep and understand a business that is public, any business that is public. You can look up Tesla, Apple, Google, Netflix, any public company. They have to have company filings, both for quarterly reports and annual reports. And you can see stuff like this, where you can see the accumulation of Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, which is a public company that is slowly accumulating Bitcoin that's been founded in 2013. They got an annual fee of 2%, but we can see if the max here, it can pump like 200% when Bitcoin's pumping from, let's say, 4K to, let's say this was July 2019, like 14. So I guess not as much as BTC, but if you're not really tech savvy, if you want to own equities instead of cryptocurrencies, or if you're trading futures or whatever, this is a good way to gain exposure in the cryptocurrency market while being able to stay in equities. If you are, for example, using Robinhood, you don't want to pay for fees, this would be a good option. All right, so now we're going to go to the questions and discuss any questions that people have. All right, so let's get to them. Alrighty, so let's get the questions here. I buy one BTC for $10, really interesting price. If you bought BTC for $10 back in 2010, 2011, 2013, like back in like the extremely early days, congratulations, you're probably doing very well. Or you bought like one Bitcoin. I don't see why someone would buy one Bitcoin if it was only $12, but yeah, if you bought Bitcoin at $10, that's fantastic. Congratulations. I can't look away from the resistance trend line. That's all I see and care about at this time, from user 505. Yeah, I do agree in that it's definitely a major level of resistance that we do have to keep in mind, for sure. I completely agree. But at the end of the day, if it does break, I will have to change my bias. I think that 10K is a big zone, but this horizontal zone at 10.5, 10.6, if that breaks, that's basically going to be game over for that descending trend line, unless there's a major fake out. What I really want to see is, if it does break, I want to see that 6-hour, 12-hour daily candle hold. That's going to be my validation. And I think if we do break, it'll probably be a break like we saw within the accumulation phase in the end of 2018, start of 2019, when we were sitting around like 3,500, 3,200 to around 4,200. We were sitting in that nice tight consolidation. If we are able to get that huge bullish engulfing candle that pushes the price way above the 10K zone, that's definitely going to be a pretty big flag that the bulls are in charge, and we could see that huge move coming into play, in my personal belief. But until that happens, I completely agree with you. My bias is a little bit more bearish. I do think that overall the miners, I don't say should, but it would make sense if they sold off a decent amount of their cryptocurrencies, mainly Bitcoin, because of the fact that it's really, really hard to make any profit for miners right now, because just the electricity cost on average globally to mine one Bitcoin is around $9,400, and it's around the same cost to actually sell that mined Bitcoin. So if you're looking at additional expenses on top, like a building to rent, you have staff that you need to pay for, you have lawyers or accountants, and everything that you need in order to run a structured business. It costs money, and a lot of miners are losing money right now. So in my personal belief, if there is a sell-off that is pretty significant, it'll get exacerbated due to the fact that miners are worried that their asset that they're holding is depreciating in value, and they still have to pay for their expenses and debts. So it would make more sense. And then if that minor culling event does occur, where you're going to get something like the end of 2018, where we broke out of the major triangle back in October of 2018, that was a major culling of miners, because the price went below the point in which miners globally on average are profitable. So a lot of miners became unprofitable, but then the difficult part was BTC stuck there. So it's not like they got a quick rebound. They turn off their mining equipment, and then they wait for the bounce to come, and then once the price is at a point where they can be profitable, they'll just turn back on their machines. It wasn't like that. It just kept on, the price kept on bleeding. So then miners eventually just got blown out. They got bankrupt. They had to sell their BTC and get out of the market, and that's exactly what happened, which then created an environment where the Bitcoin supply is getting funneled into the most efficient miners, creating an environment in which there is a skewed supply and demand situation that is very in favor of the demand because the supply is restricted. Because the people that are getting the Bitcoin rewarded to them, that the Bitcoin is getting funneled to, they're not selling because they lived through this winter for miners. The worst of the worst. They're able to survive and they're able to hold Bitcoin. So why would they sell when things are really groovy and the prices are going up? They wouldn't. And that's basically what creates these awesome parabolic moves. All right, I've seen breakouts. I've seen flag and pennant chart patterns breakouts before. Yep, that's good. They're always being on a bullish chart though. That's good. 8,500 is a big number. Thanks, Performant. Yeah, no problem. Appreciate the comments. Hopefully you're getting some value from this. Yeah, I completely agree. $8,500 is going to be the floor of this current consolidation. If it breaks below that zone, actually, let's look at it on the 4-hour chart. I don't think we need all this stuff here. It's looking a little bit messy. Give me one moment while I clean it up. I'll just make this very faint because I do think that does still play a role in the current structure of the market. But I completely agree with you that the $8,500 zone is the floor of the current structure, and I think if we go below that, that's going to be an area in which we will look for some continuation patterns to the downside, which are ascending wedges, ascending channels, ascending triangles potentially, or even descending triangles. If it's really bearish, you'll get like a little pump up, and then you'll get the slam down, hold the support, little pump up, slam down, so you're getting that validation that there's sellers in the market. So that's going to be an area where we're going to be looking for some level of continuation pattern, similar to what we got in the previous market reversal in February, where we got that slam below. Initially, it was, let's not move that one, it was this zone that we were looking at. It was a pretty large zone, but it was around 9,500. This is that major structural zone that we wanted to see hold initially, which broke to the downside right there. And then that's that continuation pattern. That's that nice ascending wedge that we're looking for. And then once you get that bearish engulfing candle with that wick top with the huge candle closure all the way down below nearly many of the candles prior, that's definitely indicating that there's sellers now in the market. Bulls have definitely gassed out their attempts to try to keep the price at a certain level or try to make it go higher. And the sellers are going to absolutely demolish the confidence in the near term. That's kind of what you're looking for in that $8,500 zone, is that trigger, in my personal belief. No kidding. I need to understand better the bull thesis of BTC. Any other altcoins could rival Bitcoin? Okay, so user 5 I need to understand better the bull thesis of BTC. So, like, the reasons why Bitcoin is bullish, in my personal belief, I think it's not easy to understand, but right now in the world, central banks are printing a shit ton of money. Everyone knows this. I'm sure you know this too. But the question is, how does that end up? Every fiat currency that's ever been in existence is depreciating exponentially or has already failed. Looking at Venezuela and Zimbabwe as a prime example in the recent years of a currency failure. Yes, they are more, you would say, less safe of a country. Their politicians are, I guess not really politicians, even dictators, but it's not really a politically safe and fair country, you could say. But a prime example is, look at Germany. You'd say Germany is a pretty first world nation, even back 100 years ago, or whatever the case may be. But we see that the German mark, which was the native currency in Germany at the time, between World War I and World War II, basically hyperinflated. And that's how Hitler came to power. Is in World War I, Germany had to pay reprimands. They printed their way to paying for the reprimands because they lost the war, which left German people basically devastated because their native currency lost almost all its value. And then if you have nothing to lose, you're going to riot, you're going to get mad, and you're going to be basically in a state where you'll do anything because you have nothing to lose. And that's how wars are basically started. So if you're looking at how all fiat currencies lead down to the same path of zero intrinsic value, all right, what's the next step beyond this fiat currency system that we are currently in, this monetary system, the central banks basically being able to print value? I don't believe it's value, but, from the random person's eye, money is value, so they were able to print wealth, they're able to print value. That's a pretty powerful thing to have, if you ask me. So the end game is, okay, let's say all the fiat currencies get debased to a point where people lose faith and confidence in that currency, which I think inevitably will happen. Study currencies, it always leads to debasement, people losing faith, people rushing into something else that's able to hold their value better than a piece of shit paper that does nothing for them. So what is that asset that people always turn to time after time through history? And the answer is gold and silver. Every time people turn to gold and silver, precious metals, things that have a fixed supply that you can't print out of thin air in order to try to hold their wealth through time. This is a prime example. Look at back in the Roman days, you could buy an extremely nice outfit like a toga, shoes, whatever else that you want, like a knapsack or some shit. I don't know, but you can buy a really nice outfit for around 1 ounce of gold in Roman times. Couldn't get you a massive house, but it could get you a nice set of clothes. Look at nowadays. The price of gold is around, let's say, $1,700 USD. You could get a very nice suit, very nice shoes, belt, a nice top hat or whatever for $1,700. And you're saying I could buy that for $300. Well, yes. But you could also buy another suit for 50 grand, right? And a pair of shoes and a belt. So it's relative, right? So that is the reason why people should be looking at gold and silver. So if you're throwing into cryptocurrencies, why is Bitcoin, why the bullish case for Bitcoin? Well, it is a fixed supply, where in reality, if you're looking at the long-term scope of Bitcoin, it's a deflationary asset, meaning that there's going to be less and less created over time, and at a certain point, there's going to be no Bitcoin created over time. So the way I look at it is like it's digital real estate. I don't look at Bitcoin as a form of currency yet. It may be in the future if we're able to create more efficient ways of sending and receiving Bitcoin that doesn't cost so much. We can see recently, back in, let's say, like mid-May, it costed $6.50 USD, $6.50 in order to send a transaction for Bitcoin. So if you bought a $2 coffee, you're spending $6.50 to actually pay for the $2 coffee. That doesn't make any sense. So in terms of the currency, yeah, it does not work. But in terms of the store of value, it is the best store of value that we've seen in the past decade. It's way better than any other asset that's ever existed in the world, ever. That's just my personal belief. And that's why it's a bullish case, is not only just me, but people who are extremely well educated in the financial space are turning to this fixed supply digital asset that allows basically a ability to transact and have a somewhat decentralized I wouldn't say commodity, an asset, kind of like there's no CEO of gold, there's no CEO of silver, there's a CEO of Amazon or Alphabet or whatever the case may be. I don't know why, but I love that. I really like the idea. And that's why I'm kind of more focused on metals and cryptocurrencies. I personally don't like equities as much. It's just my personal belief. Yes, they might, cryptocurrencies and metals might not generate interest, like dividends or whatever. But at this current point in time, in my personal belief, I think metals and cryptocurrencies are going to be the places to be in. But that's just my personal opinion. Lucas said, any other altcoins that could rival Bitcoin? So I think Bitcoin has a certain use case as a store of value, but obviously it has nothing on the actual application use, where it actually has real world use cases for more of like the smart contract side of blockchain, whereas Ethereum provides a huge foundation and a platform in which a ton of different technologies and projects can be built on, and they are. Ethereum is massive because it's like the foundation in which tremendous amounts of really significant projects are built on. So in terms of rivaling a safe haven asset, I guess you could call it, or a store of value, I don't think that there will be a coin that will rival Bitcoin in the store value sake. I think that Bitcoin has cemented its feet in the digital gold status, my personal belief. But in terms of the different use cases of blockchain, yeah, there's definitely going to be other tokens that are going to provide tremendous price appreciations due to their own focus for trying to solve that particular problem. Another thing is privacy. If you're wanting to be a person who has lots of privacy and don't want, like Bitcoin, you can see who is transacting it, right? It's not completely anonymous, right? So if you're wanting to be completely anonymous, if you're wanting to kind of get off the grid, another coin that's pretty well vetted, in my opinion, is Monero. Is in my opinion, the best privacy token, but that's just my personal opinion. It's not a fact. But yeah, those are some of the tokens that I'm looking at. Also, if you are looking at exchange tokens, BNB, Binance Coin, with Binance being the largest exchange in the crypto realm, I think is a really good token. And Binance actually burns tokens to some degree, so it's not like you're purchasing a share of Binance. You can't look at it like that. But if Binance grows, there's more adoption, there's more people using BNB in order to pay for fees, which is a feature that Binance offers to reduce the fees, there will definitely be more people buying BNB, because in order to pay for the fees in BNB, you have to buy BNB. So it's a very ingenious way of getting demand to support the price of BNB by getting your own clients to use the currency you created. It's a pretty genius idea. All right. Is it mainly because of its stability? Well, government around the world are printing a lot. Yeah, so it's a basically way to hedge against inflation, in my personal belief. It's a store of value. That's the way I look at it. Okay. Not BTC related, but how about them SNFs? All right, let's look here. Not BTC, SNFs, skilled nursing facilities. I have no idea. Not sure what you're talking about there, mate. All right. Thoughts on VTIQ as of right now? VTIQ. I don't really have much to say, to be completely honest. There's some shady stuff going on, you might know, with them accounting for the sales of pre-orders, which don't cost anything, but they're saying that they're selling for some amount of money that they didn't receive yet. I don't exactly know. I'm not really following it too much, but yeah, I know that there's a little bit of some shady stuff happening over there, so I'd be a little bit worried, but I know that there is some huge gains that currently have been taking place, so I'm not too well versed in it, to be completely honest with you. Is 0% inflation sustainable? Would not greedy governments want to increase the amount of BTC? Is 0% inflation sustainable? Well, basically, Japan's been in almost 0% inflation for like 30 years almost. So since the asset bubble popped in 1989, when they had the huge asset bubble, stocks, real estate absolutely soared. Japan was like the second largest economy other than the States. They were booming. And in 1989, the asset bubble popped. And since then, they've been in a very deflationary spiral due to two primary reasons. One is awful demographics. There is a huge amount of older generation individuals who are in need of medical assistance and don't really work and sell assets, save, don't know how long they're going to live. Very different mentality than peak working people who are making the most amount of money that they will in a lifetime during that time and are willing to spend more money in order to create a better life for themselves, which will then drive the economy forward because one man's spending is another man's earnings. If people spend more, people earn more, and that's kind of how it goes. But Japan's demographics, for one, and then also their saving mentality. They're savers over there after that long drawn out correction. They're not consumers like Americans. Americans go in debt to consume, and that is what makes the economic oil continue to go around, but Japan's consumer habits are definitely a lot different than America. So those are the two primary reasons that they've been in a deflationary spiral. And it's somewhat sustainable. Like, a lot of people don't like it because obviously inflation is when goods and services, the price of them goes up, meaning people's wages go up too. People can sell things for more. And overall, I think it's not a bad thing to have low inflation, but at the end of the day, it's not really what I think, it's what people who will actually make the decisions that are going to impact the world think. And the majority of the people who are in positions to actually change laws, fiscal policy, monetary policy, is going to be Keynesian economists. And they print unlimited money to try to save any stock market crash, stock market correction. Corrections are the worst things possible. And we need to avoid them at all costs by debasing the currency and taking value from the people and giving it to corporations because we're printing more money, and then we're giving that freshly printed money to huge corporations that shouldn't even be alive, in my personal belief. If a company's going to go bankrupt, they should go bankrupt. That's just fact. You didn't manage it well. That sucks. My personal belief. All right. PHUN. Advertising folks. Locations. Okay, so PHUN is a mobile application location tracking company, basically. And you might think it's bullish. Wow, it did a big pop up. 71 cents to 86 cents. 120% increase. That's pretty good. So yeah, obviously you think that this is bullish because of the contact tracing discussions that we're having. Makes sense. I'm personally not too focused on the equities market, and I'll give you a reason why I like trading CFDs, contract for differences, which are similar to futures except there is no delivery. It's a perpetual contract, and cryptos. And the reason is because of the fact that there is less gaps in the market. Crypto, zero gaps. The market is constantly going, which I love. The futures market, or CFDs, are open for a majority of the weekdays. It closes a little bit, but then the weekend is closed. So there only is gaps really on the weekend, which I like. And then equities obviously has huge gaps, and I don't love that. So I can't manage risk. You are not liquid when the market is not trading. You can't do anything about your risk, and I don't like that. So I've got burned on a few times where gap downs, gap ups, just I don't like it. I don't get to set stop losses. It's not for me, unless you're like swing trading. But yeah, I personally like trading futures type of markets as well as cryptocurrencies. So that's just my personal opinion. Also, looking at mainly metals and cryptocurrencies as of right now. So I like the idea that you're going with it. It makes sense, but I'm not really going to do an analysis because I don't really have anything to provide you for that. Ticker. All right. Sorry, you mentioned the baby boomer demographic. Yeah, user 505. So we were talking about Japan and discussing the demographics that they have over there, and it's heavily skewed to the older generation, taking a large percentage of the total population, and that's not good because when a large group of, I guess, a certain generation is larger and it goes into economy, it's initially inflationary because it pushes the prices of goods and assets up because everyone's going to be buying their first couch, house, car, clothing, all that stuff, obviously. You know, there's a huge workforce coming into the market. But when it leaves, and there's a smaller class or a smaller generational group compared to the previous one, that's deflationary. A lot of those people who are older are going to sell assets, are going to be selling basically real estate, stocks, fixed income assets, or whatever they're going to do in order to continue their living and to be able to create an income for them that allows them to live and pay for their everyday goods and services and needs and everything. So that's the way I currently look at the market in terms of demographics. So we're at a point where a lot of the first world countries are in a situation where it is more deflationary compared to inflationary. Where you're looking at places like Singapore, India, they have a younger generation that is larger compared to the older generation, indicating that it's a little bit more inflationary and could pick up a little bit more heat within the economy compared to a deflationary environment. All right. Last month I got going on it, found OHI. All right, let's look at OHI. Omega Healthcare. Cool. I don't know much about it. I was wondering your thoughts on the U.S. government giving away billions in funds for the corona relief. Also, they are printing money to help pay for it. This is going to create a massive problem. Yeah, Camper, I definitely think that this is going to create a massive problem in the long term, but in the short term, I think that they'll try to continue doing this for as long as they can. In terms of the global macro, every fiat currency has ended up going to zero. But if we look at Japan, they had their massive asset bubble burst back in '89. It's been 30 years. And they are still able to have a somewhat, strong yen compared to some other countries like Turkey or South Africa with their rand, right? So in terms of problem, I definitely think that this is a problem because it does devalue the currency that you currently hold in US dollar. But in terms of immediate problem, printing lots of money will not really do a whole lot. It's only when the psychology of everyday individuals all accumulated into one huge pool of a population, when that confidence starts to diminish, saying, oh shit, they're printing a lot of money. Is this really worth what it used to be? Okay, it's worth a little bit less. And then it's a psychological shift that occurs when there's a loss of confidence, right? When the prices of goods and services slowly go up. And one thing to note, the difference between 2009 and the 3 quantitative easings that were implemented in the first wave during the financial crisis. So let's a little bit of history. In 2009, obviously we had the financial crisis, and what they did is created this new thing called quantitative easing, which is basically printing money and buying up good assets in the financial markets. Treasuries, and now they're even looking at junk bonds, but treasuries and other financial assets and stocks and whatnot. But at the end of the day, they're propping up paper assets in some sense. Like they're propping up indexes like the S&P. I personally think that it should have gone down, but because they printed so much money, they can just keep that afloat. Pretty crazy. I'm pretty blown away by that, to be completely honest. But yeah, the Fed can do that. In terms of the problem, it'll inevitably end. It's not sustainable. That's basically it. Can they print enough to bring the stock market back to all-time high? Yes, they can. But this means that they will devalue the dollar significantly, meaning that, the actual value of the dollar decreases. And if it goes really quickly, like we've seen in Venezuela and Zimbabwe, they have to print more in order to get the same amount of stuff, right? It's a little different within the United States because they're a world reserve currency. That's a whole other thing altogether. I'm trying to explain it in a way that's really easy to understand. But in short, the government printing lots of money equates to the dollar devaluing over time. In the short term, very different. The US dollar is a world reserve currency. A lot of the transactions within the commodity space transact in US dollars. So if you're a Spanish company and if you're buying oil from Brazil, you're going to transact in US dollars. If you're buying coffee, silver, gold, Bitcoin, you're transacting in US dollars on a global scale. They have the SWIFT system, which is a very efficient system of transacting. Well, efficient, not looking at Bitcoin, is a fast system that allows to transfer funds from one country to another. So in terms of the demand for dollars, it's still there. And we do talk about a dollar milkshake theory, which is the hypothesis that the dollar will rise exponentially, which will blow out a lot of other fiat currencies. And then once everyone is on the dollar, then the dollar will weaken, and then everyone will have to shift to another currency like gold, silver, cryptocurrencies, which will then be a massive, massive shift. But that is just a hypothesis. That's not a proven fact that will guarantee the country or anything. But the dollar milkshake theory, where dollar gains strength significantly, and then once everyone's on the dollar, and then a lot of the other fiat currencies like the rand, the Turkish lira, the Mexican peso has basically been obliterated by the dollar, then the dollar will weaken, and then everyone will jump ship from the dollar to another asset that's able to store their wealth. That's going to be my long-term kind of outlook that I currently see in the market. Hopefully you kind of got an understanding of that. It's pretty hard to explain in simpler terms than that, in my personal opinion. But hopefully that you got something from that. All right. I like Milton Friedman's thought on inflation. I think... give me one moment here. I missed that. I was wondering, governments... Yeah, got that. I like Milton Friedman. Yeah, he calls it a tax on the people. Yeah, 100% is. Because the purchasing power is decreasing over time. Like, that just... It doesn't make sense to hold cash for a long period of time. Buy things that are hard assets. Buy things that a central bank can't print more of. Like a lot of things. I don't know what you want to invest in, but I have my picks. And there's a lot of things better than holding cash, that's for sure. Even if it's equities. Equities do wonderful compared to cash. Anything other than just holding cash and just assuming that that's the safest bet in the long term, because it really is not. All right. Lol, the fact about the comment can only be so long. The fact that the comments can only be so long. OHI is skilled nursing facilities taking care of those boomers that we're talking about before. I think it's a good spot for a while. That's all. Yeah, I completely agree. That's a really logical place to look to invest. You know, there's a growing demand of retirees who need medical assistance from skilled medical workers who are able to provide them the necessary care they need in order to live a healthy, long, happy retirement. That's definitely a situation where it's only going to grow. So yeah, I definitely agree with that kind of perspective. All right, so I think that's the end of the video. Got no questions from TikTok, from YouTube, but we got a good amount from TikTok. Hopefully you were able to understand what we went over. Thank you for the comments, for the people who did comment. And yeah, join us next time. We will be going over the global macro update, going over some gold, silver indexes tomorrow, but today was the crypto day. So hopefully you enjoyed that little discussion. I thought the coolest part, I don't know really what you call it, but the information about Grayscale and the fact that they're actually purchasing more than half of the Bitcoin that is actually getting rewarded to all the miners put together. That is unbelievable. In my personal belief, one investment fund is purchasing more than half of all brand new Bitcoin that is being rewarded to miners. Pretty crazy stuff. So the demand is there, the bid is there, in my personal belief. It could pull back 100% and go back deeper into that symmetrical triangle. That could be definitely a play if it does break that 8,500 zone that we talked about, usually 105. But until then, we're going to keep our eye out for the little touch of the resistance here. I think it could go a little bit more, and then once that's hit, going to take it off the table and see what else this market can provide us. So that's going to be it for our video. Thank you very much for watching. Seeing if we get any comments at the last here. Yeah, no problem, everyone. Thank you very much for the comments. AVV, where do you purchase a miner? To be completely honest, there are some like retail miners, but if you're actually wanting to make a profit mining, you need to have some serious money backing you, because you need significant infrastructure, like just running one small mining rig is not going to make you much money, and the ROI is not going to be great in my personal opinion. You'd need to have a significant amount of infrastructure taking place to run a lot of machines. Like I'm talking like a couple containerfuls of those, like shipping containers. And also you probably would want to have some sort of relationship with an energy provider, because that will provide you a lot of either expense or reduces of expenses, because energy is by far the most expensive thing to mine Bitcoin, by far. So something to think about. I've never mined Bitcoin. I can't say I have. I've traded Bitcoin for a while, obviously invested Bitcoin for a while, but I've never mined Bitcoin. I do stake altcoins, which is different. Proof of work and proof of stake are two different algorithms or protocols that provide different ways of consensus. And I use proof of stake, so I use a token called ZEN or Horizon, and they provide decent ROI for staking, and I don't even stake myself on my computer. I have my coins in a software wallet, and I go to a website or a company called the Secure Node, and they actually facilitate the staking for me, and I just hold the coins in my wallet. So I have the coins, they provide the power to stake, and it's like 97% uptime, and they pay me every week a certain percentage with a little bit taken off for them to supply that staking power. So it's a really good option if you're looking to gain some completely passive I wouldn't really call it income because it's extremely volatile. I wouldn't really depend on it because Zen's a pretty volatile asset. But I think it's a great opportunity. It's a good alt in my opinion. And you'll get some better ROIs compared to just having one small little machine try to mine Bitcoin, in my personal belief. But yeah, which one is it? It's called ZEN. Zen. Z or ZEN. And then the third party proof of stake provider that I use is called the Secure Node. 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 So then if you're looking to get some cash flow in crypto, that might be a good place to be looking. There's some other proof of stake providers that have some good ROIs. Definitely look into the coins. Look at the management team, the execs and all that stuff. Make sure it's like a decent group of people who are actually working on the project. Make sure the project actually has some use cases that could be of some significance in the future. But yeah, that's a small alt that is a pretty decent coin to stake for a good ROI in my personal belief. So yeah, that's going to be the one tip I give, I guess. But yeah, for any like BTC mining, I'm not the person to ask. There are some better people to ask on the Perfect Monty team that know more about the granular details of the mining network and the mining business, because I'm in the trading business, investment in trading business, a little bit different. You got to know the mining business, you got to understand it, but not to the point in which setup. It's more like the network, the hash rate, driving forces of supply and demand for people leaving the network and stopping mining, or coming into the network and mining more, and understanding those variables is pretty important as an investor and trader. But anyways, that is the completion of the video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I enjoyed making it and answering questions and having an open discussion. Thank you very much for watching. If you found it informational, it would be great if you do go to our YouTube. Subscribe if you found this somewhat informational. We do these every day. I didn't used to do the TikToks live every day. I did initially, and then kind of the questions started to get a little bit less about Bitcoin and more about just what is a good time to buy this stock and this stock. I'm not really a stock picker. I don't pride myself on being a good stock trader because I don't trade stocks. I trade metals, some FX, and cryptocurrencies. So different markets altogether for sure. All right, so thank you very much. I will probably try to continue doing TikToks more. I quite enjoy it. I quite like the YouTube as well, but Yeah, it's a little bit the demographics of TikTok. If you are not a person who is like 12, you definitely understand that the demographics of TikTok is not necessarily focused on individuals who would be interested in trading or investing or cryptocurrencies. I guess younger people are interested in cryptocurrencies, but it's not really a asset class that most people think about when they initially think of investment. They just think of like internet money that drug dealers use, I guess. I don't really know what, the average Joe on the street thinks of cryptocurrencies, but yeah, definitely different demographics. YouTube's been, we started YouTube way late. We were heavy on Instagram first, grew TikTok next, and then we just started YouTube, which is, I enjoy YouTube. I don't know, like we did Vimeo and just made videos for the Performante Premium folk, where we provide like lengthy videos, information, educational content, but that was just for, that was locked for Performante Premium people, and that's it. And then we've kind of gone to the next step and provide daily videos on YouTube where it's public and everyone can see them. We're talking about trades that we're in or are potentially taking and all that stuff, and we didn't really want that transparency. But hey, we said, screw it, why not? Kind of gets people more interested, gets people talking, and also just good information, education for people who maybe just want to watch someone conduct TA. And even if you don't purchase a single thing from us, obviously we don't care. It's more about providing good education, even if it's absolutely for free, because obviously people, I think, do need it. Yeah, current education system does not suffice for what you need to actually invest or trade at all, in my personal belief. Anyways, let's go back to the questions here. TikTok was legit for me. I could open up Robinhood while you were talking and watch the market crash. Yeah, it's dumping pretty good. Let's look at the numbers here. Went from like 30.70. Let's see how far it dumped. As a percentage, we're like 1.4-ish% down from the high. It's not so bad though. Like, if you look at it from the small time frames, it's dumping pretty good. But if you're still on the large time frames, it's just pulling back from a pretty significant breakout, in my personal belief. I still can't believe that we're still up this high. But hey, central banks have a lot of power. I misjudged the power on one trade, but you got to keep your risk managed. You got to know how much you're losing before you enter it, and that's the way to not have a mental, psychological breakdown by losing so much money, is know how much you're losing before you even enter the trade. Ballpark, obviously, you're not going to know to the cent unless you set like a stop loss with a very tight stop loss and you incorporate the stop loss slippage into your calculation. Then that could be a possibility. But overall, you're going to have a ballpark average of how much you should be losing on any given trade, which will then give you some level of a risk reward that you're going to be working with, which is really important as a trader. So that's going to be what I ended off with. You should do a YouTube live on daily for your trading. Thank you very much, Christian. I appreciate it. We are trying to do more lives and try to get some more content out there. Just, random talking. Doesn't have to be like so structured in some sense. Like the beginning of this was pretty structured. If you do want to watch the beginning of it, we will be posting it with timestamps on our YouTube video. So then if you just want to skip to a certain part, if you just want to be looking at a certain section of the video, timestamps will be in the comments of the video, which we do every single video. But if this type of structure where it's a little bit more loose, questions being asked, discussions being talked about, just kind of jumping about from different asset classes, different instruments that we're trading or whatever, I'm very open to do that. I actually quite enjoy it because who doesn't like talking about markets? I'm sure some people, but I'm sure as hell not one of them. I love talking about markets. So yeah, we'll try to do this more often. Thank you very much for that comment, Christian. And until next time, I hope you guys have a lovely day and a good rest of the week. Do you have a Discord channel, Christian? Yep, we definitely do have a Discord channel. So the best way to go on our Discord channel would be going to our website, which is right here, performante.ca. Let's just go performante.ca. Same name as our TikTok, and then just .ca. And then you can go join community. Oh, which is like just up the top here, and then free Discord invite. So it's right there. You can also find our YouTube, Instagram, and just email us if you want an inquiry. But our Discord is definitely the place to go if you are looking to get help for absolutely free. We have like a bunch of different stuff that we have here. So testimonials, like these are some of the people that have joined Performante Premium. Read them if you want to get an understanding of what we do. We have some stuff for Performante Premium, which we won't really get into because that is the paid version. But we got cryptocurrency section where we got like a high quality analysis. We go through a video of the price action of Bitcoin, different alts, and we do a video very often. And then we got Bitcoin markets, altcoin markets, just some general discussion, crypto news that people talk about. You got non-cryptocurrency related information like stocks, commodities, forex, just general entrepreneurialism, and then beginner center. So we do have educational resources for people who want to get a brief understanding of trading, as well as just some modern finance, just understanding that there's a lot of money being printed, there's a lot of debt in the world, and it's unsustainable. If you're wanting to get a brief overview on what trading is, it's a 45-minute video on our Discord within the Beginner Center, and then if you want a quick understanding about the modern financial world, there's one video or there's one book as well there. There's some stuff on financial terminology, simple stuff, and then we got some general discussions. I don't know how many people are on here actually. I think there's like over 1,300, I think, at this point, but there's like 13, 12, 1,400, I don't exactly know. But there's a decent amount of people on here, really good community, everyone's friendly. There's no idiots or anything. Everyone's just trying to, get along, make profits, share interesting news topics, talk about Elon Musk being fucking crazy with his tweets, I don't know. But yeah, that's kind of what we have. Do you have any idea about the 5 points of 5 mil? Yep, with Tika Takori, or Tika Takari, or whatever. Tika is, in my opinion, a very good marketer. And yes, he in his previous 5 points to 5 million, he picked Chainlink, which was an extremely, extremely good choice. I haven't looked at his stuff. In my personal belief, it's a little bit like I personally am approaching the market a little bit different because I'm an active trader in the markets, meaning I use leverage and I can trade Bitcoin. So if crypto does boom, I don't need exposure to these tiny alts. Like, it would be good, yeah. 10xing your money. Who doesn't love that? That would be phenomenal. But in terms of risk reward, I would rather bet on my skills and the ability to capture profits on the crypto bull run, because I do look at other alts. I just look at alts that have a lot more liquidity, like BNB, Chainlink, Ethereum, Ripple. I look at those types of cryptocurrencies that have a lot of liquidity, and then I can see the structure of the setup, and then I just trade. So it's like I'm viewing it more of a trading system instead of just trying to pick some tiny, like, penny stock type of structure of a trade where you don't put a lot of money in, but it could exponentially increase that capital that you put into it. That's like the gold rush, striking gold, and like you pick at like 100 spots to find one thing of gold. I don't know. I would rather just stick to the larger market cap tokens and trade those using mainly relative strength in TA to analyze which coins are pretty good. So different approach. I'm extremely active in the markets. So if you are a person who is having a job unrelated to trading and don't have time because you're working 8-9 hours a day every day, having some money in just long-term investments. I have money in long-term investments as well. It's great, but yeah, I don't follow him. Little bit different approach that he's taking than I am, but everyone has their own way of going about doing their business. So yeah, I know about that, but I personally am sticking to the coins that I find has real world value in some shape, way, or form. So that's going to be the end of the video. Yeah, I have nothing bad to say against him. I'm sure he is really well versed. I know he has a pretty good background in financial markets, trading. So he definitely knows his stuff, but I don't really have anything to say in terms of what he has to offer other than his experience. I am totally new to this. Well, welcome to the Wild West. Crypto is another world. It really is. How to explain it? I don't know. I don't really know what to say about it in such a short amount of time. But if you're brand new to this, very different from equities. It moves a lot more, but yeah, I don't really know how to. I don't want to give someone a bias. I'm really bullish on crypto, so it's hard for me to try to provide a unbiased statement without leaning you in one way or another. But it is extremely disruptive technology. And I think once people understand that it's not just Bitcoin as a store of value, but it is the ability to provide a ledger that every single person within the network can see, is an unbelievable technology of its own. So many applications. Look at voting. Look at the hospital system is so ancient. Like nurses still write on. Oh, was I away? No, maybe not. Like nurses still write on pen and paper. Yeah, I was out for a little bit. Okay, now I'm back. But yeah, there's a lot of applications. Good job that you're in the space. You're not too late or anything. I think it's definitely a good time to still be in the space. But best of luck. Join our Discord if you would like free education, information, and updates on the price action of not only Bitcoin but other cryptocurrencies as well as some information regarding news and just general discussion about the space. So hopefully you enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching, and we will be providing more TikTok lives in the future because definitely it seems like people like them and want them, so we'll definitely try to provide more in the future. So thank you. Hopefully you have a wonderful day, and until next time, happy trading, folks.